Okay, guys. After we did Module 8 for the cybersecurity piece, we're going to move into something that kind of, I want to say, dovetails into that aspect of it. We're going to look at Module 9. We're going to look at what they call enterprise risk management. We discussed earlier with breaches and intrusions and vulnerability testing and everything else. When we look at security breaches, we need to really think about the information that we're protecting, not just looking at what somebody doing to get into the computer, obviously, or get into your cloud, or get into your computer system, or get into your network. What we got to look at is the actual, the information itself. People aren't just breaking into computers just for the joy of breaking into them, so we're not just going to kind of get into something. So you got to think about the information that's being protected. With cyber being a primary concern, obviously, yeah, getting into that and all that other stuff. But we look at what's happened with recently with the Office of Personnel Management. We look at some of the credit reporting agencies that have all had breaches. Okay, yeah, fine. Somebody got into their system, but somebody also took the personal information of millions of people. So we got to look at that. In Module 9, our learning objectives is describe the rationale for performing security risk assessment. We're going to explain the importance of information security. Crucial. Information security is crucial. Okay, so obviously protect their system, but obviously we want to protect the information. I know it sounds like the same thing, but it's not. It's just different entities. When you're looking at the network, you're protecting the network intrusion itself. You're trying to protect somebody from getting into your network. Now we're actually just trying to figure out ways to safeguard and protect information. Okay? Okay, to get through the Module 9 checklist, what we're going to do is we're going to watch the lecture, obviously, by me. We're going to learn the information about performing a security risk assessment. We're going to read the Cybersecurity Nexus Journal article from the ISACA. And we're going to have the enterprise cyber risk discussion questions. So that being said, we are going to move a little bit forward. Basically performing a security risk assessment, okay? It used to be back in the day, IT security was always responsible for the IT department network staff. While yes, it does come into the play, those individuals have the basic understanding about how the information works for the intrusion into the system. Security risk assessment has been performed by the IT with little or no input from others. That has limitations. This is changing. Okay, this is changing. So I can look at it from a different concept. As systems have become more complex, integrating connected to third parties, which means that, okay, I may be on a network for my company or my corporation, but that could expand out to other organizations where I'm actually involved with them. So what you got to do is you got to make sure that you're interfacing, you're talking to these guys, and you're making sure that you got the best available resources to mitigate the risk from all avenues. Okay, somebody breaks into one organization or somebody penetrates another organization and opens up that information, they can also get into yours. So you got to know that it's not just your computers and not just your networks that you're trying to protect. I can't emphasize this enough. You're also looking to protect the information. Okay, I know it sounds the same, but it's not. It is totally different entities. Okay, to meet the requirements, you got to perform regular security risk assessments. You've got to take a look at that stuff. You got to also make sure that your counterparts, any other organization that you're involved with, is also conducting these security risk assessments. That's the way it's got to happen, because it just goes back to the point of, I know what you're doing, you know what I'm doing. We got to basically look out for each other. Okay, that's it in a nutshell. Okay, you got to be looking at employee, or you can look at hardware and software information vulnerabilities, how somebody can penetrate your system that way. Employee awareness training. Employee awareness training. I can't emphasize this enough. Phishing schemes with emails, any number of things. It could be something where somebody's looking for it, or somebody downloaded a music app, or anything like that, where your employees need to be aware of how they can open your systems up to a vulnerability and compromise the information that's in the system. You may hear me use the term PII, personally identified information. That's a military term that we use all the time. And it's one thing, you don't want that PII out there. You don't want that social security number out there. You don't want that date of birth with your name out there. You don't want your physical address out there. You don't want that information out there. That's the information that's being protected. Okay, that's the information that's being protected. You got to take a proactive approach to this. You've got to be very repetitive. It's got to be constantly going at it. There's also legal and regulatory requirements for this information, as well as general and public security requirements, and a number of other things that are involved. So it's not one person saying, hey, you got to do this. You got a government entity, you got an organization, you got a company policy that's saying that you are required in some places by law to protect that information. These are the criteria that you must follow. This is the course that you must follow to make sure that you are meeting all these benchmarks to protect that information. That's crucial, because you could do a risk assessment, or somebody could come in and do what they call a periodic review or a program review or something like that. And if they find that your security protection, your security risk assessment, or your security risk management program is not up to standards, they can start docking you, they can start fining you, they can start charging you money for a company, or charging your company money, because what it is, if you signed a contract, you've just violated the statement of work. You just violated an agreement. So they can start charging, they can start fining. If it's a government organization or a government entity, they can start fining you. They can also criminally charge you if it gets to that point. Okay? What you got to do, so you got to make sure that you're performing these risk assessments. That's going to be your bread and butter at the end of the day, is making sure you're conducting these risk assessments to find out exactly what information is vulnerable, how it's vulnerable. There's some rationales. Cost some money. It can cost a lot of money if you're found in violation. If you violated a policy, if you're charged, if you're fined, if you're not meeting the statement of work, if you're losing money you could lose money like that. Okay. An effective IT risk management is key to business managers on these critical tasks, and they can save you a lot of money in the long run because you're not being fined. And on a business standpoint, if one of these organizations that you're contracted to likes what you're doing, you're providing good security, at the end of the day or at the end of the contract, you got a rebid. You got a chance for a rebid. Okay? Productivity, enterprise risk assessment should improve the productivity of IT operations. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, that's pretty self-explanatory. Always, always, always think security and audit, security and audit, security and audit. Take these steps, security and audit. You got to be able to do that. Okay, breaking barriers, the most effective security must be addressed by organizational management as well as the IT staff. Going back to what we were saying earlier, it's not just the IT staff going at it alone. You got a lot of players in the game. You got a lot of people looking at this stuff. And you got to make sure that your management is on board for making sure that everybody's doing what they need to do. Making sure that the employees are not hooking up thumb drives to the computers. Making sure people aren't doing silly stuff. Making sure they're not answering phishing emails by logging in to an email that somebody says, hey, your information's been compromised from Citibank. We need you to log into this link right here and give us all your personal information. Things like that is what opens you up to vulnerability. Self-analysis. You got to be your own worst critic. I can't emphasize enough. You got to be your own worst critic, because sometimes the boss or the supervisor or the director, they don't know what to ask. Okay, you are being that subject matter expert. They don't know what they're asking, so you got to take that into consideration too. So you need to take a long, hard look at yourself and start thinking to yourself, okay, could I change this? Could I tweak that? Could I make something else different? Could I contact this subject matter expert to maybe look at things a little bit different to protect that information? You got to take that into consideration. Communication. Talk to everybody. Your counterparts, talk to these other organizations, talk to your counterparts, talk to, if you've got an IT staff or his counterintelligence security staff or something like that, make sure that you're talking to these guys, because again, these guys are your subject matter expert. As risk management, you're a conduit. You're not a subject matter expert on engineering. You're not a subject matter expert on meteorological stuff. You're not going to be a subject matter expert on IT stuff. We all heard the story, or all heard the term, jack of all trades, master of none. You've got to have that diverse information, but as we speak, you're also that security guru. Okay, you're the security guy. Same thing I've told my boss on many occasions. I may not know, but I know who to call to find out. That's the way you got to do it. So bang out that discussion question for me. Make sure you take a look at the Performing a Risk Assessment. I think it's a pretty good read. I think you'll enjoy it. I think it's going to give you some good base knowledge on the cyber stuff and also the information, I haven't used the term InfoSec, but that's going to be another term that you may become obviously familiar with down the line. InfoSec, information security. bang out those discussion questions. Keep up the phenomenal work, guys. I can't tell you how impressed I am. So let's keep rocking this thing. We got this. See you next time.